feeling very nervous and anxious about having to go back in time. I often wonder why Nathaniel didn't kill me. This was the very man that I brought into their lives. I was just devastated, lost, because he's taken so much from me. All I had to give was love, and in return, I lost everything.
It seemed like once I started smelling blood, I just completely just bugged out.
That's evil. I see evil in his eyes. Between the time I met him and the time he wound up here, he changed. I never believed in evil before. I didn't think that it would come to my doorstep, but it was around me and I invited it in. And this is the consequence. I was a single mother raising 2 children, and my cousin came one evening on my birthday and wanted to take me out. And I hadn't been out in so long that I decided to go.
I'm so happy you came today.
I mean, I'm worried about the kids.
We were there together for a while, and then she met someone and she went off, and I sat there, and then Nathaniel approached me.
Mind if I buy you a drink?
Sure.
He was very attractive and well-dressed, and I wasn't used to that sort of attention. It had been some time since I had been with anybody since my divorce. It made me feel good. When we were leaving, he asked for my phone number.
Jill.
Nathaniel.
After 6 months of phone calls and him coming to visit on the weekend, I started to fall in love with him. And so I decided that it was all right for him to move in. This picture's when I first met him. He was very polite, timid and shy at first. I felt safe and I felt loved. I thought he was a keeper. After Nathaniel moved in, it was a little difficult for him to find work, and the bills were piling up, and we were starting to get frustrated. He'd go out all day looking for these jobs, applying, and nobody was calling, and he was getting anxious. And one time, we were preparing breakfast, and there was a knock at the door.
Oh, don't get up. I got it.
And I answered it, and it happened to be the police.
Good morning, officers. Is everything okay?
Ma'am, are you home alone?
No, I'm here with my boyfriend, Nathaniel.
What's this? What's going on?
And they said, would you mind coming with us because we have a complaint that you were seen robbing the convenience store. At that time, I felt that was strange because I said, no, he's been here. I don't think you have the right person.
Baby, tell them that you would never do that.
Ma'am, relax.
Baby.
He says, yeah, I did rob the convenience store because we didn't have any money.
Baby, how could you do something like this?
I had to take care of us.
I was mad at him and couldn't understand why he would do something like that. We were having financial difficulties, but I mean, you don't go rob a store.
You don't have to come with us, sir.
He chalked it up as a dumb mistake. He said he was angry at himself for doing something like that.
Stop.
I was sympathetic because I knew the position that we were in and he was unemployed. And so they took him away in handcuffs, and he had to go to jail. He didn't have a gun, and this was his first offense, so it was only a few months that he was gone. I blamed myself. I was the one that mentioned about how finances were tight with him not working. He made a mistake and he had to pay for it. So your time for this and I'll get you a job and things will work out.
Well,
What is this?
just go ahead and take a look.
Okay.
I helped Nathaniel get a job and everything was going better for him. So he said, I'm going to buy you some outfits to dress you up because we're going to be going out.
Oh,
Nice.
no, this is short.
But Nathaniel would pick out risque dresses that were really short, above the knee, and real sexy, and I felt a little apprehensive.
Baby, but this is not my style. Like, where am
Come
I?
on, baby. You know you got the body for these. Just try it on, okay?
I said, well, aren't they kind of short? He said, no, that's how they're wearing them now. And so I try him on, and he said, oh, perfect, you look sexy, you look good. So I wanted to please him, so I went along with it. The next day was a basketball tournament, and we always went to the park on the weekend. He says, well, here, I want you to wear one of these outfits. And I said, well, to the park?
Can't wait to see you play.
They weren't really appropriate for a playground and a park. But I went along with it because he wanted me to look good and I wanted to please him. So I wore it to the park. He was playing basketball and I was watching the game, and people that knew me that aren't used to me wearing that type of thing then began to approach me.
Damn, Jill. You looking fine.
Thank you.
And Nathaniel noticed that they were noticing me. And he's not pleased at all. I could see it in his face. The basketball game ended, and he says, I don't like the idea that all these guys are talking to you. And he started to get angry.
It's not okay to do that.
To do what?
You know exactly what's going on.
You're supposed to be paying attention to me. You don't know how to act. And I was surprised because I had never witnessed this jealous rage before and his demeanor changing so quickly. And I said, well, I'm trying to please you. I can't help if other people are looking at me. It's the way you got me dressed.
I didn't want to wear this stupid dress.
Don't blame it on the dress. You just don't talk to other guys. You need to learn how to behave.
All right.
And I tried to smooth things over with him and say, well, you know, I won't talk to nobody. I'll stand over to the side and I'll watch you play basketball.
I just want to make you happy.
Well, I'm not happy.
Baby.
He would calm down and we would be okay again until it was time to go somewhere else in one of those dresses. He would get jealous and he would get agitated and he would get mean. It was like a light switch. It got to where I didn't know how to act. I just didn't want him to be angry. I just wanted everything to be okay. One evening, my brother's daughter, Christine, came over to play with my daughters. We were all in a good mood, and Nathaniel was playing with the girls, and they're laughing and having a good time, and they were roughhousing and playing hide and seek and tag in the house.
Where are you?
So then that evening, it was time for Christine to go back home. When she got home, my brother's calling me,
Hello?
telling me she had said that he had touched her inappropriately.
Uh-oh, I saw you look at your car.
Nathaniel was there, and so I asked him while I was still on the phone.
Nathaniel.
Yeah.
I said, Nathan, my brother's saying that you touched Christine inappropriately.
What? I don't know why he would say that, okay?
He said, no, we were just wrestling and stuff. She must have mistaken. He said, I wasn't trying to touch her or anything. Then my daughters were there, and they backed Nathan up by saying, oh, no, we were just playing rough. We were playing tag and stuff. And my brother said, well, I don't know. She just won't be coming over for a while. And I felt funny about it. But the girls backed him up, my daughters. But I thought perhaps it's a mistake. Probably just playing tag, and she just mistaked it. And so she didn't come over for a while after that. Few months go by, and the next thing we know that Christine is missing. And one day she said she was going to a friend's and she never came home. This is a picture of my niece, Christine. This is the time when she spent a lot of time at my house with the girls. Happier moment. I remember the day that this newspaper came out. I went out to get the paper that morning, and I noticed that there was an article about Christine missing. We went to my brother's house, and Nathan was with me. There was a large search. Everybody that knew Christine was looking for her. Even the police was looking for her.
I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, she said she was going over to her friends.
Nobody knew where she was. She's 14 years old, so teenager. Maybe she ran away. Maybe she's hanging with the wrong crowd. Maybe she don't want to come home.
I just don't understand how she could run off like this.
I don't know either. See.
Nathaniel was very concerned, and they had asked Nathan, have you seen Christine? And he said, no, but I'll keep an eye out for her. If I hear anything or see anything, I'll let you know. I'm going to help look, too. He seemed concerned, like we were all concerned.
I really am grateful for all the help.
Of course. It's the least we can do. Christine is family, right?
Don't worry, we're gonna find her.
As a family, we went out in search of her and then reached out to people that knew Christine to see if they could further help out in the search. She never turned up after a few weeks or a month or so. And the police didn't resolve anything, so she became a missing person. Everybody believed that she had ran away or she was at somebody's house and didn't want to come home. Nathaniel's demeanor changed. He was more distant. He started to stay out more and more. It began to be almost every evening. He wouldn't come in until after 10 o'clock at night.
Looks like somebody found their way home.
Sorry, lost track of time.
And I questioned it, and I said, oh, gee, you played basketball awfully late. And he said, we played several games. He said, I stayed till the end.
Well, you do know you have a life here outside of the game?
What? I got a curfew now?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Then what are you saying?
It seemed as if his mood was always on edge, very anxious.
Huh?
Never mind. I'm sorry.
I believed Nathaniel because I didn't know too much about the basketball and the leagues, and I just figured he knew more about it than me. And I took him at his word. There was a knock at the door mid-morning, and it was the police. And I'm like, oh, now this is the second time with this police business.
So, what's this about?
The police said that they had a complaint that a young woman said that you were trying to kidnap her.
Will.
Excuse me?
She's detailed an incident that happened in a car. Do you have any recollection of that?
He said he went to the convenience store to pick up some beer, and he saw a girl walking, and he pulled over and asked the young lady if she wanted a ride because it was dark and it wasn't safe.
She's telling us it was more than just a ride, sir.
She saw me leaving in the parking lot and asked me for a ride, and I said sure.
But the policeman said that the young girl's complaint was that she accepted the ride, but once she got in the car, he was holding her against her will and wouldn't let her go. And then when the opportunity presented itself, she got out of the car and went directly to the police and complained. She's got it wrong. He says, I gave her a ride. I wasn't holding her against her will. And they said, well, would you mind coming to the station with us?
All right, let's go.
I'll be back, babe. Don't worry about it.
And they took him. And I'm thinking, did he really try to kidnap some woman in the nighttime? That was hard for me to accept that he would do something like that. You're sort of caught in the spider's web, and so now you just want to please him, and so you reason anything away. And that's what I was doing. I reasoned it away. I said, well, maybe it really didn't happen.
Seriously?
It's fine, because you know what? I made a decision.
I had a good friend named Lorette, and she would come over from time to time because her kids played with mine. And she was going to move to the West Indies.
I can't take this cold anymore.
Okay. Wow.
And she wondered if we had any boxes and things to help her move.
Hey, found some boxes.
He wanted to help her in any way. And so Nathaniel went over to help her with the boxes and help her move. And then when she said she'd say goodbye when they were all set to go, her and the kids. About a week or so passed by, and I was waiting to hear back from her when she was going to leave so I could say goodbye.
What is it?
And then I received the paper one Sunday, and the front page had announced that Lorette had been killed in her apartment.
Oh my God.
I got my Sunday paper,
What is it?
and I see a big article about how Lorette had been murdered in her apartment. And I'm reading this to Nathaniel, and he says, oh, wow, she was okay when I dropped off the boxes. I wonder what could have happened to her.
Man, this is awful. I don't know who would have anything against her.
I'm thinking, well, maybe she got into it with somebody because she was a very flirtatious woman. And I said, but this is a tragedy. It's really terrible. I was devastated that my friend was gone. I was like, wow, first Christine goes missing, and then my friend Lorette is gone. I said, I want to go to the services, to the funeral and all.
I'm not going to be able to go, Jill.
What do you mean?
But Nathaniel said, oh no, we shouldn't do that. I think we should stay away from that because they'll have a lot of police and I have a record.
You think people are going to want me there?
Who would care?
Trust me, I don't want any trouble.
I kind of was mad and I wanted to go. I said, she was a good friend of ours. And he continued to eat his breakfast and say, no, that's not really a good idea because people were always accusing him of different things. False accusations, just looking for someone to blame. So we should not be involved in anything that they're still investigating. And he convinced me, so we didn't go.
The girl's body was found in a field in the small upstate town of Goshen, along with the bodies of 2 others. A few miles away in Middletown, 3 other women were found.
I started noticing that several young girls were missing, and a few of them were found dead.
Word that many of these cases share similar details and that police are cautioning that this may not be a coincidence.
And they felt that there was a serial killer on the loose. I said, we need to lock the doors.
But the girls, they walk home alone and...
I'll protect you all.
But I wasn't overly concerned because Nathan was there to protect us. As long as Nathan's here, we'll be all right.
Remain vigilant and alert at all times.
A few nights he would come in late from playing his league ball. And one particular day, he had 2 deep scratches on his forearm.
Baby, that looks bad.
Oh, yeah, just...
And I said, oh man, what happened to your arm? It's all scratched up. He says, they tried to get the ball away from me and they scratched me in the process. I said, boy, they play that rough? And he says, yeah, sometimes. And I didn't pay much attention to that. I said, yeah, they do play rough.
I'm good, baby. It's nothing.
I knew about the women that have been missing, but it never occurred to me that the 2 were linked together. Who would think that their partner was a killer? I worked nights and I left Nathaniel to watch the children overnight. But there were occasions when I'm getting ready for work and the girls were still awake and they're upset.
Girls, what are you doing up? It's late.
Don't go to work, please.
They say, oh, Mommy, we don't want you to go. We want you to stay home. We want you to stay home. And I couldn't understand that at that time, but I just figured that they just wanted me to spend more time with them.
No.
And I said, well, I got to go to work, you know. That's what I do. I go to work at night. You'll be all right.
Calm down, calm down.
Nathaniel's here to watch you, so everything will be okay.
I mean, no, you'll be fine.
I'll be here in the morning to put you on the bus and get you ready.
Work.
But no, they were not having it. They cried and cried, and I said, oh man, okay, I'll call in this night. But I can't keep doing this because then I'll lose my job, girls. So I asked Nathaniel, what's going on with the kids? He just brushed it off and he says, oh, they'll be all right. I was waiting for the girls to come home one afternoon, and they never came. bus. The bus must be late or something must be wrong with the bus. And it got later and later, and it was after 4 o'clock, and so I called the school.
I'm calling because my girls didn't come home from school today.
The principal told me that my daughter went to the teacher and said that she didn't want to go home because she was being abused. Nathaniel was touching her in the nighttime, that she was being physically abused. And he said, your children won't be coming home. We can't tell you where they're going, but they're not coming home. You follow up with CPS and they'll tell you what to do.
Can I please just speak to my girls, please?
And so I was hysterical. All I did was cry. My children are being taken away. I never thought in my mind that Nathaniel was actually abusing my children. It never occurred to me.
Hello?
And so I hung up with the school and directed my anger toward Nathaniel.
What did you do? You know what you did.
I'm screaming at him. Now my children are saying they're abused and they don't want to come home. This is because of you. Nathaniel's trying to smooth things over, and he says, well, we'll go to the school and we'll find out further about the children. And I'm crying in hysterics still.
Get in the car, Nathaniel.
So we proceed in the car, and all of a sudden, in a rush, 2 cars blocked our car from going any further.
What is going on? What's going on?
And these men in these suits, and they rushed out of their cars, and they pulled him out of the driver's seat. They said, we're doing an investigation about the missing women. And I'm crying, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
What is this? What is this?
As soon as we get to the end of the road, they pull out and block our car in. 2 detectives got out of the car and they went to the driver's side.
Don't move. Let me see your hands.
Stay calm, relax.
What is happening? What's happening, Nathaniel?
And they take him and put handcuffs on him.
Let's go.
Nathaniel!
And the other detective opened my door and grabbed my arm and told me I had to go with him.
Nathaniel!
And they take us to the state trooper barracks. The detective comes in the room, it's almost morning, telling me that he confessed to killing these several women that have been missing. And that he was a serial killer.
The bodies of 6 women have been recovered in the Middletown, New York area, and this man is believed to be responsible for the slayings.
According to police, when Nathaniel White was taken into custody for a murder north of New York, he confessed to 5 others.
Local police are speaking with the FBI to see whether White can be tied to other murders.
It's not possible.
I'm afraid so.
I know Nathaniel, he would never do this.
He's detailed it.
I was in denial, I was in shock. It was hard for me to grasp that. I just really didn't believe what they were telling me. All I could do was cry, and I was a nervous wreck, and I said, God, this can't be happening. I was coming from the police station. They were taking me home. There was this back road. It was a shortcut. And we were riding down that road, and the next thing I know, I look to the side, and there he is in an orange jumpsuit he was taking them up in the woods so he could show where he dumped all these bodies. I started to think back about the first time he got arrested.
Good morning, officers.
And about the first girl that got away and said he was trying to kidnap her and all the lies he told me. And about Lorette.
I'll help you out if you need to.
But I didn't want to look. Didn't want to look at all. I just couldn't believe it. That I could have been so blind and I didn't realize. And I kept trying to help this man. I always defended him. I always stood up for him. I was just devastated. And then they took me back to my house, gave me a search warrant, and searched the premises and took whatever they needed to take for their investigation. I didn't want to go back to that big house where we had been staying, so I decided to go and stay at my parents' house where my older brother also stays.
Now, of course, there are multiple reasons why the authorities...
And then there it was on the news.
32-year-old Nathaniel White of Middletown, New York, is the serial killer who has confessed to murdering 6 young women.
I was like in a state of shock. I couldn't really believe that he had killed all those women while he was with me.
Authorities believe White would have continued killing if the Poughkeepsie police had not received the anonymous tip that led to his capture.
I wonder why is it that they got killed and I didn't? Because I was the one closest to him. And they showed him confessing and the whole bit.
I just would drive around and I would see a girl and I would talk to her, and once I got in my car, we would go someplace and I just snapped. No reason for it, or I don't know where it come from.
Nathaniel confessed to killing 6 women, including my friend Lorette. My parents asked me, didn't I know? And I said, no, I did not realize that I was with a killer.
All I know is that while I'm doing it, it's like I enjoy it. It's like it stimulates me or something. And then it seems like a dream. And after it's over, that's when the remorse comes. That's when I feel sorry, for what I've done, and I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I'll get that. Hello?
The phone rang, and my older brother answered it, and it happened to be the detectives to tell him that his missing daughter was one of the victims that Nathaniel had killed.
Christine was one of the victims. Hello?
The investigators have called my older brother to tell him that Nathaniel had murdered his daughter. He didn't look at me. He just looked distraught.
It was a detective. He said that Christine was one of the victims.
He told my parents that Christine was dead and that he had to go and get Christine's mother so that he could tell her. They're all in a state of shock as well as I am. I couldn't think. All I did was rock and cry. I was devastated. That was all my fault.
Tim, you have to forgive me.
Yeah, I say, I'm sorry. Because I'm the one that brought him into our lives. And my brother didn't look at me, he didn't say anything. He just continued on to what he had to do.
The youngest of Nathaniel White's 6 victims was laid to rest today at St. Joseph's Catholic Church. The mother and father of 14-year-old Christine Klebe followed the coffin as their daughter was buried behind the church where she made her first communion.
I wanted to be at the funeral so that I could say goodbye to Christine. So I could say goodbye to my niece. My brother doesn't say anything to me. Didn't verbally speak to me, didn't look at me, nothing. And to this day, he doesn't speak about it. He barely speaks to me. I barely see him. So when I got to the church, as soon as I was around the casket, that's when people came up to me and they were accusing me. How could I have let this happen? They couldn't understand how I could not know that this man was out there murdering people and that I still was with him. And I did not know.
Jill Garrison, Christine's aunt and the longtime girlfriend of Nathaniel White, was clearly distraught over having brought the killer into the family.
I brought that man into their lives and caused all of this. I met him and brought him from out of town into our town around people that I knew and entrusted him. They all looked at the same person that I looked at and thought he was charming and kind. But he wasn't. He was the devil in disguise. I see myself in those women. Because we were innocent and naive and didn't believe that there was such evil in the world. I didn't realize that this evil force was right there in my house. I went to go see Nathaniel while he was incarcerated because I wanted to see if he would look me in the eye and tell me the truth. I said, well, how could you do these things? I want to hear it from you.
Why would you murder all those girls?
Baby, you know I wouldn't do that.
And he still sat there and lied to me. And he said, I didn't do it. It's a mistake.
You know what I was going to be. They forced me into it. I didn't do it.
All I was really looking for was for this man to tell me the truth in my face after all the time we had been together, and you're going to sit there and tell me there's a mistake again when you confess.
Baby, you know I wouldn't do that. This was all wrong, okay? I'm innocent. You know that.
Then why would you go and confess to the news?
And he said, oh, they pressured me. I had to confess. Which I knew at that point was a lie.
I can't.
No, come on, don't leave. Just stay and talk to me.
So it was kind of a waste of time to even go. I got my children back. But the relationship wasn't the same. I told my daughters I was sorry that I wasn't there and I couldn't see and I couldn't protect them. But no apology in the world's gonna erase the fact that they got abused and I was supposed to their protector and I didn't protect them. And I have to own up to that. It's taken years for us to regain the trust and the love and the bond that we had when we were together in the beginning. But the bond is not the same. It's not as strong as it used to be. They're always fearful too now, just like me. They have that fear that he'll come back. He's still trying to get parole. After all of these years, I still fear if he ever got out, I would be the next target. I'm never relaxed. I'm always on a heightened alert now. I'm always making sure that I'm on my guard. I believe in evil now. I never used to. And I wouldn't ever believe that it would be around me, but it was around me and I invited it in. And this is the consequence.
It starts with a street light flickering over cracked pavement, the sodium glow bleeding into the fog that rolled off Lake Michigan. Chicago, winter 1995, cold enough to freeze your eyelashes, quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat echo through the alleyways. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, a scream ripped the stillness apart. By the time the first patrol car slid onto the icy curb, the night had already swallowed its secret. A woman, young, mid-20s, was found in an empty lot behind an old bakery on South Halsted. No ID, no witnesses, just the wind, the snow, and a trail of footprints that stopped dead at the edge of the asphalt like someone had vanished in a thin air. Detectives Reynolds and Vargas took the call. Two veterans of the 21st District, both with too many cases and not enough sleep. They stepped into the glow of the cruisers, saw the body under a sheet, and knew this wasn't random. The precision of the violence, the placement of the body, the silence around it. Feels personal, Reynolds muttered, kicking the frozen ground. The coroner nodded slowly, eyes narrowed. Or practiced. By sunrise, the lot was sealed off. Reporters hovered at the tape, cameras steaming in the cold. The story spread fast. Woman murdered, identity unknown. Local stations ran it as filler between weather reports. But something about her face, pale under the frost, stuck in the city's collective mind. She looked peaceful, almost posed. They called her the Halsted Jane Doe. The morgue couldn't match her fingerprints. No hits in AFIS. No missing persons match. Her clothes were common. A denim jacket, black jeans, sneakers. But the necklace, a silver locket shaped like a crescent moon, caught Vargas's eye. Inside, a photo, a child with gap teeth, smiling in summer light. No names, no dates, just that smile frozen in time. Days turned into weeks. Leads dried up. Tips came in by the dozen, all false. A bartender swore she'd seen the girl at a South Side pub. A janitor claimed he heard a fight behind the bakery. None of it held. The case went cold before spring. But the city remembered. Every year, around January 12th, someone left flowers at the lot. Always white roses, always fresh. No one ever saw who brought them. Detectives changed, districts merged, files were archived. The Jane Doe remained on the board, a ghost in the system. Fast forward to 2022. Detective Lena Keller was reviewing cold cases for the new DNA initiative. Old samples run through new tech. She was used to dead ends. Boxes of dust. Notes faded to nothing. But something about the Halsted file pulled her in. Maybe it was the photo of the locket. Maybe the way the report ended with a blank line under suspect. She signed it out, took it home. Inside the evidence bag was a swab of fibers from the victim's jacket. Stored for decades. Untouched, Lena sent it to the state lab out of routine. 2 weeks later, an email hit her inbox. Subject line, partial DNA match, pending confirmation. Her pulse jumped. The profile linked to a man named Caleb Roth, deceased 2007, auto accident. No criminal record, no connection to the victim on paper. But the odds of a match were astronomical. She stared at the screen, a cold case suddenly warm again. Reynolds was long retired, Vargas too. Lena dug through the old interviews. Roth had lived 4 blocks from the bakery in 1995. Worked night shifts at a warehouse. Neighbors described him as quiet, polite, kept to himself. They said, the phrase that always shows up before disaster. His wife died in 2001, no children. His apartment was cleared out years ago. Nothing left but paper dust and memories no one wanted. The DNA was a familial hit, not direct. A distant relative had uploaded their genealogy data to a public site. The chain of matches narrowed to Roth's branch, but the lab couldn't confirm how close. Lena needed a reference sample. Roth's remains were buried in Forest Home Cemetery. She filed for exhumation. The request raised eyebrows. Digging up a dead man for a case older than some of her colleagues felt absurd, until the chief read the match report. He signed off with 2 words, "Do it." Winter 2022 felt like a mirror of 1995. Same frozen streets, same gray sky. At the grave site, the backhoe cut through the frozen earth with a sound that echoed like metal screaming. The sample went to the lab. Lena waited in the dark for results. 3 weeks later, the call came at 2 a.m. The DNA was a match. Caleb Roth's profile was found on the victim's jacket. Microscopic skin cells, trace contact. Impossible to ignore. But he'd never been arrested, never questioned. No record of knowing her. The case file exploded with new notes, old questions. Who was she? Why was he there? What happened that night? Lena dug deeper. She found a warehouse employment log from 1995, handwritten. One entry stood out. January 11th. Shift swap. Roth off early, covered by Jenkins. No reason given. She cross-checked phone records. Roth made a call that night to a number traced to a payphone near Union Station. Unlisted. Untraceable now. But it placed him within a mile of the crime scene less than an hour before the murder. Then came the photo. Buried in evidence was a Polaroid from the locket, enlarged for clarity. Behind the child, faint in the background, stood a man. Half-cropped, but clear enough to see the outline of a face. Lena compared it to Roth's ID photo from 1995. The angle, the jawline, identical. Her breath caught. If the photo was authentic, Roth was connected to the victim long before that night. She brought it to forensics. The techs ran a date test on the Polaroid paper. Manufactured in 1992. The child was about 4. That made the photo 3 years before the murder. But the victim had no record of a child. No birth certificate. No hospital file. Like she never existed on paper. A neighbor from the bakery recalled a woman matching the victim's description coming by for bread and coffee in the mornings. Quiet, polite. Sometimes with a little boy. Then one day, she stopped coming. That was December 94. The boy was never seen again. The police composite artist worked from the child's photo, aged it up to estimate his current appearance. If alive, he'd be around 35. Lena released the image to the press. Headlines screamed, "Chicago cold case reopened." Could this man hold the key? Tips flooded in overnight. One stood out. A woman from Milwaukee called, voice trembling. She said her ex-boyfriend looked exactly like the aged photo. Name, Aaron J. Roth. Her ex. She'd never met his family. He avoided questions about his past. Once she'd asked about his mother, and he went silent for days. His mother died when he was young, he'd said finally. She was found in Chicago. Lena's blood ran cold. Aaron Roth, son of Caleb Roth, the boy in the photo. She dug into records. Aaron born 1990. Mother listed as Evelyn Roth. Maiden name Miller. No death certificate. No trace after 1995. That was her. The Halstead Jane Doe. The timeline snapped into focus like a trap springing shut. Evelyn Miller marries Caleb Roth in 1992. They have a son. By 1994, they separate. Custody battle brews. She vanishes January 1995. Caleb claims she left town. Case closed. No body identified. No proof of crime. He raises the boy alone, then dies in a car accident in 2007. The circle completes itself decades later with a DNA swab and a cold case file nobody wanted. But the lab found something else. A second DNA profile. Partial, contaminated, unknown. Male. Not Caleb. Not Aaron. Someone else was there that night. Someone who never surfaced. A shadow in the snow. Lena stood at the empty lot where Evelyn was found. The bakery was long gone, a strip mall now. But the air still felt charged, like the city remembered. She imagined the scene, the struggle, the fear, the silence after. Somewhere in that silence was the missing voice of a boy who grew up never knowing the truth. She reached out to Aaron. He agreed to meet in a coffee shop off State Street. When he walked in, she saw his father's jawline, his mother's eyes. He looked haunted before she even spoke. "I think you know why I'm here," Lena said. Aaron nodded slowly. "I dream about her," he whispered. "A woman in the snow. Calling my name." He paused, hands trembling. "My father told me she left, but I found a letter once. She said she was coming for me." Lena slid a photo of the locket across the table. Aaron stared at it, eyes wet. "That's hers," he said. "I gave it to her the day she left." He closed his eyes. "When I was little, I remember a man coming to our door after dark. They argued. I heard glass break. Next morning she was gone. My dad said never to talk about it. The man, the second DNA profile, still out there." Lena left the meeting with a knot in her stomach. The case was solved on paper. Caleb Roth killed his wife, Evelyn, in 1995, buried under 3 decades of snow and silence. But something in Aaron's voice told her it wasn't that simple. Someone else had been in that house. Someone who'd helped make her disappear. As she walked past the river, the wind howled like a memory. Chicago's skyline glittered above the black water. Every light felt like an eye watching. The past was awake again, and it wasn't done talking. The file now sat open on Lena's desk, pages spread like a crime scene map of the human heart. The DNA twist had cracked the case, but the truth behind it was only beginning to unravel. The night after the interview, Lena couldn't sleep. The city outside her apartment pulsed with winter noise, wind scraping against brick, sirens distant and hollow. The kind of night that makes you feel watched. On her desk, the Halstead file sat open like a wound that refused to close. Evelyn Roth, once a mother, a wife, a name erased by the cold. The DNA had pointed to Caleb, but the second trace, that faint, partial male profile, gnawed at her. Contaminated, the lab said. But Lena knew better. Contamination doesn't leave pattern consistency. This one had structure, a partial match to an unknown donor. She'd seen it before. Evidence of proximity, of contact. Someone had been close enough to leave a print of themselves in the fibers of Evelyn's jacket. Someone who had never been caught. She reopened the morgue photos. Evelyn's hands were clenched tight when she was found. Under her fingernails, microscopic traces of paint. Red and gray, industrial grade. Not from her home, not from the bakery. Warehouse paint. Caleb's workplace. Lena stared at the photo of the warehouse, a monolithic concrete box along the river. The place had been abandoned since the early 2000s, windows blown out, graffiti covering the walls. She called for a warrant, then grabbed her flashlight and badge. The building moaned under its own weight when she entered. Dust, silence, echoes. Every step felt like walking through the ribs of something dead. In the far corner, she found the remnants of an office. Metal desk, rusted file cabinet, coffee mug fossilized with mold. On the floor, a patch of concrete that looked newer than the rest. Different color, fresh at one point, poured over something. She crouched, brushed the dust away, felt the uneven texture. This was patched, she whispered to herself. The air felt colder suddenly, heavier. Forensics arrived 2 hours later. They drilled through the layer and found what she'd feared, fragments of bone, small burned. Human. By dawn, the place was crawling with cops. They recovered a second locket, melted out of shape. Inside was a name scratched by hand, Yem. The same initials as Evelyn Miller. The press got wind before the sun came up. Warehouse discovery reignites 1995 cold case. Cameras flashed, drones buzzed, the story spread like wildfire. But the bones weren't Evelyn's. The lab identified them as male. Early 30s. Time of death, mid-1990s. Cause blunt trauma. No ID. No missing persons match. Lena's heart sank. Another ghost from the same year, the same neighborhood. Someone else had died in that warehouse. Someone whose body had been buried under the memory of Evelyn Roth's disappearance. Back at headquarters, the whiteboard became a storm of red lines. Evelyn, Caleb, the unknown male, the child Aaron, all connected by one frozen thread of time. The new remains forced a rewrite of the entire narrative. If Caleb killed Evelyn, who killed the man in his warehouse? And if the man died first, had Evelyn seen it happen? She traced the timeline over and over. January 11th, Roth left work early. January 12th, Evelyn found dead. The warehouse patch job likely poured within 24 hours. No one noticed the smell, the change, the silence. Then Lena pulled the autopsy notes from the male victim. Fracturé jaw, cruce orbital bom, defense vivants. Fought hard. Under his fingernails, the same industrial paint. And something else, a sliver of gold chain. She took it to the evidence light. Inscribed on the back, Jr. The initials jolted her memory. In the 1995 interviews, one of Caleb's co-workers, James Jimmy Rourke, never showed up for his last shift. Reported missing weeks later. No follow-up. The case went nowhere. Now he was in the concrete. The report from 1995 said Jimmy Rourke had been Caleb's closest friend. The two drank together, fished together, even swapped shifts. Rourke's wife told police her husband had been helping Caleb through a rough patch. After Evelyn left, after the fights, Lena sat back, connecting dots that shouldn't exist. Evelyn leaves Caleb. Caleb spirals. Jimmy tries to mediate. Something goes wrong. Jimmy ends up dead. Evelyn tries to escape, maybe threatens to talk. And then, she disappears. 2 deaths, 1 family, 1 survivor, the boy. But the partial DNA didn't belong to Jimmy. It was newer, different, and found on Evelyn's jacket, not in the warehouse. Someone who'd touched her after she died, maybe moved her body. Lena went back to the autopsy of Evelyn Roth. No signs of sexual assault. Cause of death, blunt trauma, consistent with impact from a blunt object, possibly a wrench or hammer. But one detail had been overlooked in 1995, a trace of ash on her collarbone. Cigarette ash. Filtered, brand unmarked. She cross-checked the old evidence logs. Only one person interviewed in the original case had been noted as a heavy smoker, a neighbor named Frank DeLuca. She found his address in the old file, 2 doors down from the Roth apartment. Construction worker. Arrested twice for assault, once for arson. Released in 1994. He'd vanished in 1996. Lena's instincts flared. She pulled his file, ran it through the database. Nothing until she checked aliases. One popped up. Francis Dell, a maintenance contractor registered in Indiana, active until 2018. No criminal record, but the photo ID, unmistakable. The same man, older, gray hair, same cold eyes. She called the Indiana authorities. The line crackled. DeLuca? He's dead, the officer said. Heart attack 5 years ago. Buried near Gary. Another dead end. But his DNA, maybe still on file from his assault cases. She requested the archive samples. When they arrived, she sent them to the lab against the unknown mail trace from Evelyn's jacket. The wait was brutal. 3 days of silence. Lena drove the city streets like a ghost, replaying every theory. Caleb kills Jimmy. Evelyn witnesses it, flees. DeLuca, neighbor, friend, something darker, helps dispose of her body, maybe in exchange for silence. Caleb lives with the guilt until his own death. Aaron grows up in the shadow of a lie. But theories are just smoke until the lab says otherwise. When the call came, Lena was in her car outside the old warehouse, watching snow fall through the broken roof. The DNA matched. The partial profile from Evelyn's jacket belonged to Frank DeLuca. Her breath froze. That meant Evelyn was alive after the warehouse. DeLuca had touched her, maybe helped move her body, maybe something worse. She slammed the steering wheel. You son of a... She stopped herself. The man was dead. Justice was a concept, not a reality. But truth that she could still chase. She dug through DeLuca's employment records. In 1995, he worked maintenance at several buildings around Halstead, including the bakery. The same bakery where Evelyn's body was found. And one more address jumped out, an old storage unit under his name. Still active, rent paid automatically through a bank trust. She got the warrant before midnight. The unit was on the outskirts of the city, a rusting row of steel doors and flickering lamps. Inside DeLuca's locker, boxes, tools, and a stack of Polaroids wrapped in plastic. Her hands trembled as she opened them. Evelyn. Dozens of photos, candid, private, some taken from a distance, others inside her home. A stalker's archive. The last few blurred, panicked. A hand in frame, gripping her arm. Behind her, faint but visible, the warehouse. DeLuca had been watching her for months. Lena felt her stomach twist. She flipped through the rest. One showed Caleb and Jimmy outside a bar, laughing. Another, DeLuca standing behind them, in the reflection of a car window. Always there, always watching. He hadn't just been a neighbor. He'd been orbiting them, feeding on their chaos. When the marriage fell apart, he stepped in. When Jimmy disappeared, he was nearby. When Evelyn tried to run, he followed. The story inverted itself. Maybe Caleb never killed his wife. Maybe he killed Jimmy after discovering DeLuca's obsession. Maybe DeLuca retaliated, framing Caleb in death. The truth had been buried under 3 decades of silence, each man's lie covering the others. Lena stared at the photo of the child again. Aaron, smiling, innocent. Somewhere between all these ghosts, he had lived his entire life not knowing which shadow had shaped him. His father's, his mother's, or the man next door. She closed the box and stepped outside. The cold hit her like a confession. Snow fell in lazy spirals, the world reduced to white noise. She looked up at the city lights, flickering in the distance. Somewhere, the truth was still breathing, faint, fragile, waiting for someone to listen. Back in her car, she turned on the recorder. Her voice shook as she began dictating. Evidence recovered from DeLuca's storage unit. Photographs confirm long-term surveillance of Evelyn Roth prior to her disappearance. Victim possibly targeted by DeLuca following marital separation. Secondary homicide. Jimmy Rourke, likely connected. Unknown motive link between all 3 subjects. Case reclassified as serial pattern, potential undisclosed victims. She stopped the recorder, sat in silence. The heater hummed, the windshield fogged. Through the haze, her reflection looked back. Tired eyes, cracked lips, a faint smear of ash on her jacket sleeve. She brushed it off instinctively, then froze. Ash. She hadn't smoked in her life. Her gaze drifted to the passenger seat. There, a half-burned cigarette, filter crushed, lying where nothing should be. She swallowed hard. The air in the car felt thick, unmoving. Someone had been there. Her pulse quickened. She looked around the empty lot, the long stretch of units, the dark corners between lamps. For a second, she swore she saw movement, a figure slipping behind the chain-link fence. She reached for her gun, stepped out, boots crunching in the snow. Police! Her voice echoed off steel doors. Silence answered. Only wind and the hum of distant traffic. She walked to the fence. Beyond it, fresh footprints led into the woods. Large, heavy, recent. DeLuca was dead. Caleb was dead. Jimmy was dead. But someone else was alive. Someone who didn't want this case reopened. Lena's flashlight flickered once, then went out. The darkness swallowed everything. And in that darkness, Chicago held its breath again. The snow absorbed every sound as Lena followed the footprints beyond the fence, flashlight dead, gun drawn. Her breath came out in white bursts, her pulse drumming in her ears. The prints led deeper into the woods behind the storage lot. Wide strides, heavy, fresh. Whoever had been there was close, maybe still watching. She moved carefully, boots crunching over ice, branches snapping like bones underfoot. Half a mile in, the trail stopped. Just ended. No turn, no drag marks, nothing. She swung her light back on. the dim beam flickering weakly as it caught the rough outline of something nailed to a tree. A photograph. She stepped closer. It was weathered, edges torn, but she knew the face, Evelyn Roth, smiling. The same photo from the locket, pinned to the bark with a rusted nail. Across it, in black marker, "Not done." Lena froze. Every instinct screamed to back away, call for backup, lock the scene. But something about the message felt deliberate, personal. Someone wanted her to see this. Someone who knew she was digging where she shouldn't. She bagged the photo and headed back to her car, every shadow along the path suddenly alive. By the time she reached the lot, the footprints near her vehicle had already faded under fresh snow. The next morning, she filed a report. Forensics couldn't lift prints off the photo, too degraded. No match on the ink either. But they found fibers caught in the tape used on the back. Nylon threads from a glove, possibly work-issued, industrial. Same type once used by maintenance staff in the 90s. The kind DeLuca would have worn. But DeLuca was dead, unless someone else had them now. Lena checked DeLuca's estate records. His tools, his personal items, all auctioned after his death. Most buyers were scrap dealers, except one. A man named Victor Hale bought multiple storage lots in the same facility, including DeLuca's unit, months before Lena's raid. Hale. The name rang no bells. No priors, no background. The address on record led to a warehouse near the Calumet River, recently sold to a private security firm. She called the number, disconnected. That night, she sat in her car outside the warehouse, rain mixing with sleet, engine off, watching the dark building loom like a silent witness. Through the cracked window, she could hear the wind rattling loose metal sheets. Then, faintly a hum. A generator. Someone was inside. She waited, heart hammering. At 2 a.m., a door creaked open. A man stepped out, heavy coat, gloves hood pulled low. He carried something wrapped in plastic, small, square. He crossed the lot, loaded it into a van, and drove off without lights. Lena followed at a distance, headlights off. The van weaved through industrial streets, crossed the bridge toward the south side, then stopped behind an abandoned motel. Hale stepped out, dragged the package into a side door, and vanished. She called for backup. None came. Dispatch was overloaded, patrols rerouted. She was alone. So she went in. The motel was a ruin. Mold, collapsed ceiling, graffiti screaming from every wall. Her boots left wet prints down the hallway as she followed faint light seeping under a door. She pressed her ear against it. Voices. 2 men. "You shouldn't have kept those photos," one said, gravelly nervous. "It brings heat." "I told you, they're insurance," the other replied, calm, deliberate. Lena eased the door open just an inch. Inside, 2 figures stood over a table scattered with papers, photos, and an old cassette recorder. One man she recognized immediately, Hale from the auction file. The other, she couldn't see his face, only the reflection in the cracked mirror. Older, gaunt, wearing a city worker's jacket. "Who else knows?" the older man asked. "Only the detective," Hale said. She was at the unit. The old man's head turned sharply toward the door, eyes dark, sensing something. "Then she's already dead," he said flatly. Lena pushed the door open, gun raised. "Police! Drop it!" The men froze. Hale's eyes widened, shock, fear, guilt all in one breath. The older man didn't move. Then, with unnerving calm, he turned toward her. Lena's blood ran cold. She knew that face. It was Detective Vargas. Gray hair now, thin, hollow-eyed, but unmistakable. The same man who had first stood over Evelyn Roth's body in 1995. "Lena," he said quietly, voice a rasp of smoke and gravel. "You shouldn't be here." Her gun didn't waver. "Step away from the table. Now." Vargas sighed, raised his hands. "You think you know what happened, but you don't. You're chasing ghosts. I have DNA. I have evidence. You tampered with the file." He smiled, weary and bitter. "I protected it." Hale shifted beside him. "She's not going to let it go," he muttered. Quiet, Vargas snapped. Lena stepped closer. "Why was your DNA in the file?" "It wasn't," Vargas said slowly. "It was his." He nodded toward Hale. "No," Lena said. The secondary sample. Partial male DNA on Evelyn's jacket. It wasn't DeLuca's alone. There were mixed alleles. A blend. Vargas's jaw tightened. You're smarter than I thought. The air crackled. Then, in one movement, Hale lunged for the table. Lena fired, glass shattered. Hale dropped, screaming, clutching his shoulder. Vargas didn't flinch. Call your backup, he said softly. Tell them it's over. Over, she snapped. You covered up a murder. He shook his head. I covered up a mistake. Outside, sirens began to wail, faint but growing. Vargas sat down slowly, hands open, eyes distant. Evelyn wasn't supposed to die, he said. None of them were. Lena hesitated, gun still up. Start talking. He exhaled, long and broken. We were watching DeLuca. He was our informant. He tipped us to a trafficking ring, small time, moving stolen goods through the South Side warehouses. Evelyn worked for one of them. Not involved, just payroll. But she found out something she shouldn't. We were supposed to protect her. I assigned Reynolds to keep tabs. But then Caleb found out she was meeting us. She was going to testify. He nodded. She wanted out. She gave us names. Then she disappeared. So you did nothing? Vargas looked at her sharply. You think we didn't try? We found her, what was left of her, before the press did. But the chain of evidence was poisoned. Reynolds panicked. Said if her name went public, the whole operation would collapse. He buried the connection, erased her identity, left her as a Jane Doe. Lena felt her throat tighten. And Caleb killed Jimmy after learning about Evelyn's meeting with us. Thought Jimmy was her lover. DeLuca saw it, panic called us. By the time we arrived, Evelyn was gone. DeLuca helped move her body. And then, Reynolds decided to tie it off. Said it was cleaner. Cleaner? Lena hissed. You let a woman vanish and a killer walk. Vargas stared at the wall. Reynolds was my superior. I followed orders. The sirens drew closer. Lena's radio crackled. Units en route, 5 minutes out. She kept her gun on him. And Hale. Vargas looked over at the wounded man on the floor, son of one of the traffickers. He bought DeLuca's belongings after his death. Found the photos. Started blackmailing me last year. Hale good on it. You should have paid me. Lena stepped forward, cuffed him roughly. You're lucky you're still breathing. But Vargas just stared at the floor, lost somewhere else. When backup arrived, he went quietly. No fight, no resistance. At the station, his statement filled 70 pages. Most of it redacted under internal investigation. The DA reviewed the case. Too many dead, too many missing links. The file was sealed again, now under classified. But Lena couldn't let it rest. 2 nights later, she returned to the warehouse alone, flashlight in hand. The storm had passed, but the air still tasted of metal and ash. She walked the perimeter, retracing the footprints from before. Halfway down the alley, she saw something glinting in the snow. A badge. Old. Rusted. Detective Reynolds. Her pulse spiked. She checked the logs. Reynolds had retired in 1999, then vanished in 2003. No address, no contact. Presumed dead. She picked up the badge, turned it over. On the back, scratched faintly into the metal, "Forgive me." Lena stood there for a long time, the city humming around her like a broken heartbeat. The case was cracked, the killers dead or dying, but the truth, the real truth, had no file, no closure. It lived in the quiet spaces between reports, in the ghosts of those who made the wrong choice one cold Chicago night. She slipped the badge in her pocket, turned toward the skyline, and whispered into the wind, "It's not done." Because she knew someone else had been there that night. Someone whose name wasn't on any list, whose DNA wasn't in any database. And whoever they were, they just left her a message nailed to a tree. The city didn't sleep after the arrest. Reporters circled like vultures. The Chicago PD was a house of whispers, words like cover-up, betrayal, corruption. But inside the storm, one name kept surfacing like a ghost from the bottom of a river. Detective Robert Reynolds. The man who started it all. The man who vanished without a trace. Lena spent 3 days combing through old personnel files. Reynolds' record was spotless. Commendations, arrests, a few disciplinary notes buried under bureaucratic language. Procedural irregularities, unauthorized evidence access. The kind of phrases that meant dirty, but untouchable. His last known address was a duplex on West Argyle, vacated in 2003. No forwarding info, no family, no retirement claim. He simply walked off the grid until his badge turned up in the snow. Forensics confirmed the etching on the back was fresh, no more than a week old, which meant someone had touched it recently, someone who wanted it found. Lena stared at the photo of the badge under the evidence lamp. The scratch was shallow but deliberate, the words carved with precision. Forgive me. She played it over and over in her head. A confession? A message? Or bait? On the fourth night, she drove to Argyle. The building was condemned, plywood windows, and no trespassing spray painted across the door. She picked the lock and stepped inside. The air was stale, thick with rot and dust. Her flashlight swept across, peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and something that stopped her cold. A wall covered in photographs. Victims. Faces of missing women from the mid-90s, printed from old news clippings, taped in rows. Each photo had a date scrawled under it. And one detail bound them all. Every date was within a month of January 1995. In the center, larger than the rest, Evelyn Roth. Pinned beside her photo was a map of Chicago. Red strings connected locations. The bakery lot, the warehouse, the Roth apartment, and one place Lena didn't recognize, a cross-marked Harbor 47. She took a picture, sent it to dispatch. Find me what's at Harbor 47. A pause crackled through the radio, then a voice replied, Old boatyard, abandoned since 2000. City storage now. Lena exhaled slowly. Send a team. I'm going there. The drive was long, the lake a black mirror beside her. When she reached the docks, the wind hit her like a slap, sharp, cold, relentless. The old boatyard stood half-collapsed, rusted cranes leaning over water like dead giants. Her flashlight cut through fog as she walked down the pier. Somewhere ahead, something clanged, metal against metal. She froze. The sound came again, rhythmic, deliberate. She followed it toward a row of storage sheds. The door to Shed 6 was half open, creaking in the wind. Inside, the beam of her light caught movement. A figure hunched over a workbench. Chicago PD, she called out. The figure didn't move. She stepped closer, gun raised. Hands where I can see them. The man turned slowly. His face was hollow, unshaven, pale as chalk. The badge on his belt caught the light. Detective Lena Keller, he said, voice shaking like an old door. You found me. Robert Reynolds, she whispered. He nodded once. You've been digging where graves are deep. Her heart pounded. You left your badge at the warehouse. I wanted you to find it. He smiled weakly. You're the first one who's ever gotten this far. Where have you been? Trying to forget. She lowered her gun slightly, but didn't holster it. You carved forgive me on your badge. What does that mean? Reynolds looked away, eyes distant. It means I didn't stop it when I should have. He walked toward the workbench. You think Vargas lied? He told you part of it, sure. But he didn't tell you the rest. He didn't tell you what was in those warehouses. Lena's voice was a whisper. What was in them? Bodies, Reynolds said flatly. Not just Evelyn. Not just Jimmy. Others. Women mostly. The trafficking ring Vargas mentioned wasn't about stolen goods. It was people. DeLuca wasn't an informant. He was a supplier. The words hit like ice water. Reynolds continued. Evelyn stumbled onto it. She found records in the warehouse. Invoices that were really coded shipments. She brought them to me. I promised to help her. But Vargas found out. He was already on the payroll. He told DeLuca. That's when she ran. Why didn't you stop them? His hands trembled. Because by the time I got there, she was gone. DeLuca called it in. Said she fell. But when I saw her body, I knew. She'd been moved, staged. Vargas told me to destroy the evidence. Said if I didn't, they'd come for me too. Lena stepped closer. So you ran? He nodded. For 20 years. Every year I came back, left something. Flowers, a note. Trying to say sorry to a woman I couldn't save. Lena's mind raced. If Reynolds was telling the truth, then Vargas wasn't just corrupt. He was complicit in murder. And the trafficking ring didn't die in the 90s. It evolved, survived. Maybe it still existed. She opened her mouth to speak, but Reynolds raised a trembling hand. "They're still out there," he said. "You think Hale was alone?" He wasn't. He worked for them. He found DeLuca's photos because they wanted him to. They wanted to see who was digging again. "You were never chasing the past, detective. You were bait." The air went dead still. From outside, a noise, a car door slamming. Reynolds' eyes widened. "They found us." Lena turned toward the door just as headlights cut through the fog. Two vehicles, black SUVs, rolling slow, silent. "Get down," she yelled. Gunfire erupted. Windows shattered, splinters flying. Reynolds dove behind a crate. Lena returned fire, the echoes deafening in the metal shed. Then silence. She peeked outside. The SUVs were gone. Just tire marks and the smell of gunpowder. When she turned back, Reynolds was slumped against the wall, blood soaking his shirt. No, stay with me," she said, dropping to her knees. He looked up, eyes glassy. "Locker 117, he whispered. "Union Station. Everything's there." And then he stopped breathing. Lena pressed her fingers to his neck, but it was useless. She sat there for a moment, the sound of the wind mixing with the distant wail of sirens approaching the docks. When backup arrived, the shed was a scene of chaos. Shell casings, shattered glass, a dead detective, and no trace of the shooters. At headquarters, Lena opened a new case file under a single name, Operation Winterline. Reynolds' last words became its lead. Union Station's lockers had been replaced years ago, but some were sealed, unclaimed, unpaid. Locker 117 was one of them. The clerk hesitated when she showed her badge. "That one's been here forever," he said. "Rent's overdue by decades." Inside, a metal box. No label. She carried it back to her car, hands shaking. Inside, photos, documents, and a small audio cassette labeled EM, January 95. She slid into an old recorder from evidence. The tape crackled, hissed, then a woman's voice filled the car. Soft, trembling. "Evelyn Roth. If you're hearing this," the recording said, "it means I didn't make it out. Caleb, if this reaches you, please protect Aaron. They said they'd hurt him if I spoke. DeLuca's not who he says he is. He works for them, the ones with the trucks. They move people, not things. Please, don't trust anyone in uniform, not even the detectives, especially not Vargas." Lena sat frozen, staring at the rain hitting the windshield. Evelyn had left her own confession, a voice that had traveled 30 years through silence. The tape ended with a faint sound, a door slamming, footsteps, then a muffled scream. Lena pressed stop. The silence that followed was unbearable. She rewound it again, replayed the last few seconds. Faintly, in the background, a man's voice said two words, "She's here." She enhanced the audio at the lab. The waveform revealed something else, the faint hum of machinery. Not from a house, but an industrial space. The lab technician squinted. "Hear that? That's a hydraulic press. Old model, early 90s, used mostly in shipyards. Harbor 47. She felt her chest tighten. Evelyn's last moments were recorded there. That night, Lena returned to the harbor one final time. Police tape fluttered in the wind, but she ducked under it. The lake lapped quietly against the docks, black as oil. She followed the sound of the wind through the sheds until she reached the end of the pier. There, half submerged, she found it, a shipping crate, rusted and torn open. Inside, chains, ropes, and a single plaque bolted to the wall. Property of Winterline Shipping Company, the same name Reynolds had used. She stepped back slowly. The waves whispered against the shore, and for a moment, she swore she could hear Evelyn's voice echoing through the dark. "Don't trust them." The wind rose, sharp and cold, carrying the sound away into the endless black. And behind her, far off in the mist, a light blinked once, then vanished. Chicago, once again, held its breath. The tape kept playing in her head long after the recorder stopped. That voice, fragile, trembling, but defiant, had crawled under Lena's skin. "Don't trust them." 3 words, decades old, still vibrating through the walls of the station. The rain outside blurred the city into streaks of gold and shadow, and every face she passed looked like it might belong to one of them, whoever they were. The Winterline name was the only tangible clue, a thread dangling in the storm. Public records showed the company had dissolved in 1998, assets liquidated, ownership buried behind shell corporations. But one subsidiary remained active, WL Logistics, registered in 2021 under a new address on the outskirts of Joliet. She pulled up the property photo. The warehouse looked new, steel and glass gleaming against the night. But the logo, the same faded emblem she'd seen on the crate at Harbor 47. A serpent coiled around a chain. Lena drove there the next night, engine cutting through sleet. The highway stretched endless, the kind of road where headlights looked like ghosts. When she reached the gate, it was locked, guarded by silence. No cameras, no guards. Just the faint hum of power from within. She climbed a fence, dropped in a shadow. Her flashlight swept across rows of shipping containers, each one identical, numbered, sealed. On the nearest, WL 95 E.M., her pulse quickened. The year, the initials. Evelyn Miller. She approached slowly, running her hand along the cold steel. A small padlock held it shut, new polished. She picked it open, heart pounding, and swung the door. The smell hit her first, dust, oil, paper. Inside, stacks of boxes wrapped in plastic. Old police files, labeled by year. She tore one open. Inside, photographs, evidence logs, mugshots. All official Chicago PD markings. Someone had been storing police evidence inside a private warehouse. She grabbed her radio. Dispatch, this is Detective Keller. I need. The static hissed, then died. No signal. She was alone again. Her light swept the far corner. A desk, a chair, a single cassette player. Another tape sat waiting on top, labeled in black ink. Play me. Every instinct screamed trap. But the other part of her, the part that had followed this case past every line of sanity, reached out and pressed play. At first, only static. Then a voice. Male. Calm, deliberate. Detective Keller, it said. You've done well to get this far. I wasn't sure if you'd listen. But you have to understand, this isn't about one murder. It never was. Evelyn Miller was the beginning of something we couldn't contain. You're chasing a ghost that feeds on the city itself. Lena froze. The voice was distorted, but there was something familiar in its cadence. She replayed it, eyes narrowing. The tone, the pauses. Vargas. You think I'm dead, the voice continued. That's good. Let them believe it. The system can't bury what it can't find. You saw what Reynolds did when he tried to fight them. You saw how fast he disappeared. Don't make his mistake. Leave this case. Tonight. The tape clicked off. For a long moment, she couldn't move. Vargas was supposed to be in custody, locked in a federal holding facility pending trial. But this voice wasn't old. It was new. She turned toward the open door. Something moved outside. A shadow. Slow. Deliberate. She killed her light, drew her gun, stepped into the cold air. The wind howled between containers, metal groaning like a living thing. The shadow darted left. She followed, heart hammering. Footsteps close, then gone. She turned a corner and stopped. In front of her, painted in red across the wall. 117 wasn't the only locker. A noise behind her, the crunch of gravel. She spun, gun ready, but saw nothing. Only darkness and the echo of her own breathing. She backed away, toward her car. Every instinct told her she was being watched. When she finally made it home, the rain had turned to snow again. She locked the door twice, set her gun on the counter, and collapsed on the couch. The city outside hummed with static electricity. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A man's voice low, calm. You shouldn't have gone there. Who is this? A pause. Then, the same person who left the photo in the woods. Her blood turned to ice. What do you want? Not what. Who? She gripped the phone tighter. Then tell me who you are. You already know. The line went dead. Lena sat frozen. The clock on the wall ticked, loud and mechanical. She replayed the voice in her head, soft, almost gentle, familiar in a way she couldn't place. She pulled the files from the warehouse on her table, sorting through them one by one. Most were sealed case folders from the mid-90s, all marked closed, administrative order. But one stood out, file 95 to 6213. Inside, a single photograph. A young boy, blonde hair, gap-toothed smile. Aaron Roth. Her pulse thudded. Beneath the photo, a fingerprint card. Partial prints, dated 1995. Beside it, a form labeled DNA reference. Sample C. Agent in charge, R. Reynolds. But the DNA profile didn't match Evelyn, Caleb, or even Aaron. It matched unknown subject C, linked to 4 separate homicide cases between 1994 and 1996, all involving missing women. The lab codes cross-referenced to an internal PD report labeled Winterline Project. She typed the code into the database. Access restricted. Clearance level 7. Only one department still used that level, Federal Bureau. FBI. Her stomach dropped. She picked up the phone, dialed the Bureau's Chicago field office. This is Detective Lena Keller, badge 5419. I need to confirm a clearance reference for a legacy operation named Winterline. The operator paused. Detective, where did you hear that name? It's connected to a 1995 homicide, Evelyn Miller. Another silence. Then, stay where you are. Agents will come to you. The line cut. 5 minutes later, headlights flashed through her window. Black sedan. 2 men in suits stepped out, coats tight against the snow. One flashed a badge. Agent Harris, Federal Bureau. Come in, Lena said carefully. They didn't sit. The taller one scanned the room like he was counting exits. Detective Keller, Harris said, voice calm but heavy. We need the materials you took from the WL warehouse. They're evidence. They're classified, Harris corrected. Property of a federal task force. You were never authorized to access them. Lena folded her arms. Funny, nobody was authorized to murder a mother and dump her body either. The shorter agent shifted uneasily. Detective, we understand your frustration, but this is bigger than you. You've stumbled into something that was buried for a reason. Then unbury it. Harris exhaled. Winterline wasn't a shipping company. It was an operation. Covert logistics run by a joint task force. DeLuca, Vargas, even Reynolds, they were all working under it. Their job was to infiltrate human smuggling pipelines coming through the lake ports. But the operation went bad. Deep cover agents started using the routes themselves. Moving product, cash, people. The line between informant and trafficker disappeared. And Evelyn? Lena asked quietly. She found proof. She was an accountant for one of the shell firms. She thought she could expose them. Instead, they silenced her. After that, we pulled the plug. Or thought we did. Lena's voice shook. You covered it up. Harris didn't deny it. We buried it to save lives. The men responsible vanished. We assumed the chain was broken. But it wasn't, she said. They're still out there. He looked at her for a long time, then said, You're not wrong. The second agent handed her a folder. Inside, a photo taken 2 weeks earlier. Surveillance image. A man walking out of an airport in Mexico City. Gray-haired, lean, wearing sunglasses. Vargas. Lena's stomach twisted. You said he was in custody. We said what we had to. Harris closed the folder. He's running what's left of Winterline. We've been tracking shipments. Containers routed through Chicago again. The pattern's restarting. Why tell me this? Because you've already made yourself visible. They'll come for you. You might as well know why. He turned to leave, then stopped. You asked who the voice on the phone was, he said. You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, not every ghost is dead. When they left, Lena locked the door and sank into the couch. The snow outside fell heavier now, blanketing the city in silence. She looked at the photo of Vargas. Mexico City. Alive. Smiling. The ghost was real. And if Vargas was back, then this wasn't a cold case anymore. It was open, burning. She turned off the lights, sat in the dark, and listened to the city breathe. Somewhere, far off, a siren wailed, rising, falling, fading into the night. In her mind, Evelyn's voice returned, soft as the falling snow. Don't trust them, Lena whispered back. I won't. Then she opened her laptop, typed a single line into her notes. Phase 2, Mexico. The hunt had just begun. Mexico City. Night heat rising off the asphalt. Neon bleeding into the smog. Engines growling through chaos. Lena stepped off the bus near Avenida Reforma with a single bag and a badge that meant nothing here. The Bureau had promised support, but she'd learned what their promises were worth. If Vargas was alive, if the Winterline network had roots this deep, she couldn't trust any channel touched by them. So she came alone. The city never slept. Vendors shouted. Music thumped from cars. Stray dogs prowled between stalls. Somewhere inside this noise, a man once thought dead was rewriting the rules. She traced him through customs manifests. Vargas was moving under the alias Victor Santos, head of logistics for a shell firm called Linea Maritima. Officially, it shipped auto parts. Unofficially, its containers never passed inspection. The trail led to a compound near the old freight yards south of the river, a sprawl of rusted cranes, floodlights, and men with rifles. She watched from a rooftop across the street, sweat gluing her shirt to her back. Through the binoculars, she saw trucks loading at midnight, guards scanning the perimeter, and in the center, a figure giving orders, silver hair cropped short, posture straight, voice unmistakable. Vargas, alive, commanding, like he'd never left the job. Lena whispered to herself, "You son of a bitch." She clicked the shutter on her camera, 3 quick photos. Proof. Then she spotted something behind him. A young man, tall, blonde, restrained by 2 guards. Even through the grainy zoom, she recognized the face. Aaron Roth. Her stomach dropped. How the hell had he gotten here? 2 days earlier, he'd gone missing from Milwaukee. His landlord said he left at dawn, left the key on the counter. No forwarding address. Now he was standing 20 yards from the man who destroyed his family. She knew what this meant. Vargas wasn't just resurrecting an operation. He was cleaning up loose ends. The next 48 hours blurred into surveillance. Endless waiting, heat, fatigue. Every night, she watched the trucks roll in and out, marked with the old serpent and chain emblem. Every morning, she sent encrypted updates to a bureau contact she still trusted, an analyst named Marin. No replies. She didn't know if the messages even reached him. On the 3rd night, she moved. The compound's west fence bordered a drainage canal. At 2 a.m., she slipped through the shadows, slid under the wire, heart hammering loud enough to betray her. The air smelled of diesel and sweat. Inside, the noise was constant, generators humming, metal clanging, Spanish voices overlapping. She crept behind stacked crates until she reached a side building marked Control Office 3. Through the grimy window, she saw Vargas again, pacing, phone to his ear. His voice carried cold, precise. Tomorrow night. The shipment leaves before dawn. After that, erase everything. The boy, the detective, the files. Understand. Erase the detective. She steadied her breath, raised her camera again. The flash accidentally fired. Just a flicker, but enough. Vargas turned, eyes locking straight on her. For a heartbeat, they stared through the glass. Recognition. Shock. Rage. Then the alarm screamed. She ran. Guards shouted. Floodlights exploded across the yard. Bullets tore through the air, sparks jumping off metal. She ducked between containers, dove behind a truck, returned fire. One guard dropped, another yelled for backup. She sprinted toward the canal, heart slamming. Something hit her shoulder. A grazing shot, hot and sharp. She stumbled, fell into the mud, crawled until the darkness swallowed her. By the time she reached the street, sirens were wailing in the distance. Local police maybe paid off, maybe not. She flagged a passing taxi, voice raw. Hospital, quietly. The driver glanced at her blood-soaked sleeve, said nothing, hit the gas. She stitched the wound herself later in a cheap motel bathroom, biting down on a towel to keep from screaming. When she finally looked in the mirror, the face staring back was a stranger. Eyes hollow, jaw clenched, a thin smear of blood across her neck like a scar forming too soon. She couldn't go to the authorities. Not here. Not when Vargas likely owned half of them. So she called Marin again, the only number she dared use. This time he answered. Jesus, Lena, where are you? Mexico City. Vargas is alive. He's running a hub through Linea Maritima. I've got proof, and Aaron Roth's with him. Static hissed. Then Marin's voice dropped to a whisper. Listen carefully. You're not the only one tracking him. Interpol's had eyes on those shipments for months. They're moving people again. You need to pull out tonight. I'm not leaving without the boy. Lena, this isn't a rescue mission. It is now. She hung up before he could argue. At dawn, she returned to the freight yard. The trucks were gone. Only one container left open, guards loading pallets inside. She recognized Aaron near the loading ramp, wrist bound, head down. Vargas stood beside him, smoking, calm as a priest at a funeral. She moved along the roofline, found a ladder, slid down silently behind a stack of tires. One guard lit a cigarette near the truck. She crept behind him, used the barrel of her gun to knock him cold, caught the body before it fell. Another step, another breath. She was 20 feet from Vargas now. He turned suddenly, voice low. You never learned when to quit. The words sliced through the air. She froze. He'd known she was there. He flicked the cigarette away, smiling faintly. I warned you in the tape. Ow, she hissed. How are you still doing this? Because the city never changes, he said. You can bury a monster under snow, but when it melts, it comes back hungry. He nodded toward Aaron. You want him? Take him. He's just another ghost chasing a story. Aaron looked up then, eyes wide, confusion mixing with fear. Detective. Before she could answer, a truck engine roared behind her. She turned, headlights blinding. Then the explosion tore through the yard. The blast knocked her off her feet, metal and fire raining down. The air filled with dust, screams, chaos. When she opened her eyes, the world was sideways. The warehouse burned, orange against black. Vargas was gone. So was Aaron. Only the sound of sirens closing in. She staggered up, coughing, vision swimming. Her camera, melted, useless. The proof gone. She stumbled toward the street, half blind, until a pair of hands grabbed her. Black uniforms, helmets, not police. Interpol. Detective Keller, one shouted over the noise. You're under protective custody. She laughed bitterly. That what you call it now? They pulled her into an armored van as the compound collapsed behind them. Fire devoured the night. In the safe house outside the city, a medic cleaned her wounds while Harris, the same bureau agent from Chicago, stood over her. You're lucky to be alive, he said. We tracked Vargas's shipment before you did. We were preparing a raid. Then you were too late, she snapped. He's gone. Aaron's gone. Harris exchanged a glance with his partner. Not gone. Relocated. He slid a photo across the table. Aaron, alive, sitting in a van under guard. His expression vacant, distant. Where? She demanded. Somewhere safe. For now. Lena's voice hardened. You're hiding him. What? Because he's not just a victim, Harris said quietly. We ran his DNA. The unknown sample from Evelyn's jacket. It wasn't only DeLuca's or Vargas's. There was a third strand. A familial marker tied directly to Aaron. He was there that night, detective. He was 4, but he remembers more than he should. She stared at him. You think he... No, Harris said. But someone made sure his memories stayed buried. Until now. The room went silent. The hum of the fluorescent light sounded like a heartbeat counting down. Lena whispered, he's the key. Exactly, Harris said. And Vargas wants him back. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Rain started to fall, washing soot from the windows. Lena sat up slowly, pain pulsing through her shoulder. Where are you taking him? Stateside, Harris replied. Somewhere no one will find him. She shook her head. He's the last living witness. If Vargas is still breathing, he'll never stop hunting him. Harris's eyes darkened. Then we better find Vargas first. She looked out the window, toward the flicker of lightning cutting through the rain. The storm hadn't passed. It had only changed skies. Chicago was thousands of miles away, but its shadows had followed her here, stitched into the night, whispering through static, reminding her that some cases don't close. They wait, they rot, and when the time is right, they open themselves again. She reached for her recorder, voice rough but steady. Field note. Subject, Vargas. Location, Mexico City. Status alive. Network active. Aaron Roth recovered. Condition unknown. New directive. Find arrest of Winterline. End recording. The tape clicked, the sound hanging in the air like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Outside, rain washed the last embers from the freight yard, but the smoke rose high, curling into the sky like a warning. Somewhere out there, Vargas was already moving to the next city, the next shipment, the next name to erase. And Lena, bleeding, burned, unbroken, was already planning her return. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. The flight back to Chicago cut through a sky the color of bruised steel. Lena sat by the window, arm in a sling, watching clouds fold and scatter beneath her. Below them somewhere was the border, a thin, invisible line that men like Vargas crossed without consequence. The Bureau had arranged a return, officially a debrief, unofficially containment. She could feel it in the way the agents avoided her eyes. They wanted the mess to disappear, not to be solved. When the plane descended, the skyline rose through haze, the black outline of Willis Tower, the lake frozen at its edges like cracked glass. Chicago looked unchanged, but it wasn't. She wasn't. The air itself seemed heavier, as if it remembered everything she'd uncovered and wished she hadn't. At O'Hare, no one met her. No escort, no press. Just silence and the hum of luggage belts. She hailed a cab, gave an address that felt half-forgotten, the 21st District Station, the same building where Evelyn's file had first landed 3 decades ago. Inside, the place smelled the same: burnt coffee, floor wax, cold metal. New faces behind old desks. She walked past them like a ghost. Some looked up, recognized her name from the headlines, then quickly looked away. The detective who cracked the cold case and lost everything in the process. In the evidence room, she requested the Winterline box. The clerk hesitated, checked the log. That file's restricted, he said. Pulled last week by. He stopped, frowning. Wait, it says Agent Vargas. Her heart stopped for a beat. That's impossible. The clerk shrugged, helplessly. Badge number matched. Federal clearance override. Lena turned without another word. If Vargas's credentials were still active, someone had reinstated them. Someone high enough to sign his ghost back into existence. She drove to her apartment, blinds drawn, hands shaking. Inside, everything was just as she'd left it, except for the envelope on her kitchen table. No return address, just her name, written in perfect block letters. She opened it. Inside, a single Polaroid. Aaron Roth, sitting in a chair, eyes open, a bruise across his cheek. Behind him, a wall she recognized instantly. The interrogation room of the 21st District. The photo was dated that morning. The phone rang. She answered without thinking. A voice, calm, male, distorted slightly. Welcome home, detective. Where is he? Safe. For now. You've done your part. Now it's time to finish the story. Who are you? You already know that too. Click. She stared at the photo again, then at the faint reflection of herself in the window glass. The city outside glowed faintly through fog. Somewhere out there, Erin was alive, held somewhere within her own department. She changed clothes, strapped her gun beneath her coat, and headed out. The station was quiet after midnight. A single guard at the front desk, half asleep. She flashed her badge, muttered evidence discrepancy, and walked through. Down the hall, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The interrogation room door was locked, but the glass window was dark covered. She used a master key she'd kept from her days on shift. The room was empty. Chair overturned, blood on the floor. She knelt, touched the stain. It was fresh. Then she saw the word scratched into the metal table. Run. The hallway behind her echoed. Footsteps. She turned, weapon ready. A silhouette stood at the far end, tall, still, watching. Lena, the voice said. It was Reynolds. Her brain couldn't process it. You're dead. Not quite. He stepped into the light. His face was gaunt, scar along his neck, but alive. They tried to kill me after Harbor 47. I disappeared before they could finish the job. Vargas said you were dead. He said a lot of things. She lowered her gun slightly. Where's Aaron? He's bait. Vargas is cleaning the board. You, me, the boy. Every link that can lead back to Winterline. Tonight, he's moving everything out of the city for good. Where? Reynolds glanced toward the window. Pier 19, the lakefront terminal. They're loading a freighter. Once it's gone for good. Lena grabbed her coat. Then we stop it. He caught her wrist. You don't understand. They're expecting you. Good, she said. Let them. They reached the pier just after 2 a.m. The lake wind cut like knives, the water black and endless. Floodlights washed the docks in pale yellow. Containers stacked 3 high. Men moved in silence, armed. The freighter loomed like a floating city, engines thrumming. They hid behind a crate, scanning the deck. Near the gangway, Aaron again, bound, flanked by 2 guards. Vargas stood beside him, coat flapping in the wind, talking to a man in a suit Lena didn't recognize. Who's that? She whispered. Reynolds adjusted the binoculars. Harris. She blinked. The bureau agent? Winterline never ended, Reynolds said. They just changed the name. Lena felt the ground tilt beneath her. Harris, the one who'd promised protection, who'd shown her Aaron's photo, who'd pulled her out of Mexico, was standing next to Vargas, shaking his hand. The realization hit like ice water. She hadn't been hunting Vargas. She'd been delivering him the last missing piece. Herself. Reynolds drew his gun. We end it now. No, she said. We get the boy first. They moved along the shadows, ducking between cranes and cargo. When the wind shifted, she could hear Vargas's voice clearly. After this, the slate's clean, he was saying. Every file, every witness gone. Chicago forgets, like it always does. Arisli a cigarette, no dead. And the detective? Vargas smiled faintly. Already here. Lena raised her pistol, sighted him through the smoke. Not for long. The shot cracked the night, wide open. Vargas stumbled, dropped. Chaos erupted. Guards fired, shouts filled the air. Reynolds covered her, returning fire, both of them sprinting toward the gangway. Aaron shouted her name. She cut the ropes from his wrists, pulled him behind a crate. You're okay. You're okay. He shook his head wildly. They're everywhere. Stay down. Reynolds took a bullet to the leg, collapsed. Go, he barked. She dragged Aaron toward the pier's edge as bullets sparked off metal. Vargas, bleeding but alive, crawled to his feet, aiming. You can't kill what's already dead, he roared. She fired again. The shot hit the fuel tank behind him. The explosion ripped through the dock, fire engulfing everything. The freighter groaned as flames climbed its hull. She dove into the freezing lake, pulling Aaron with her. The shock stole her breath, but she kicked hard, surfacing amid debris and firelight. Behind them, the freighter burned like a dying sun. By dawn, the smoke had drifted far over the city. Coast Guard boats swarmed the wreck. Official reports called it a port accident. No mention of Vargas, no mention of federal agents. Bodies were recovered, none identified. Lena woke in a hospital 3 days later. Shoulder bandaged, lungs bruised. Aaron sat beside her bed, staring out the window. The snow had started again. They said you saved my life, he murmured. You saved mine first, she said softly. He turned to her. Do you think he's gone? She didn't answer. Outside, sirens wailed faintly, echoing down Michigan Avenue. Later that night, she found a letter slipped under her door. No name, just a single line written in perfect block letters. Winter never ends. She looked out the window at the lake, where smoke still rose from the wreck. Somewhere beneath that black water were secrets that refused to drown. And in the distance, faint and almost lost in the snow, a figure stood by the pier, coat fluttering, silver hair catching the light, watching. Vargas. Alive. Lena exhaled slowly, pain flaring through her shoulder, and whispered to the empty room. Then neither do I. The cold case wasn't cold anymore. It was alive, burning beneath the ice, spreading through the veins of a city that forgot how to feel guilt. And as night fell again over Chicago, the ghosts returned home. The city thawed slowly after the fire, as if trying to forget what had burned. The lake froze over again, black ice sealing secrets that should have stayed buried. Official reports listed the dock explosion as mechanical failure, No casualties identified. No suspects pursued. The papers moved on. Chicago always does. But Lena didn't. She still woke at 3 a.m. to the echo of Vargas's voice and the image of his silhouette against the flames. Alive. Watching. The Bureau sent her on mandatory leave. Psychological decompression, they called it. She called it exile. She spent days wandering the riverfront, nights replaying the audio tapes until the hiss of static blurred into silence. Every corner of the city felt wired, every reflection a watcher. When she passed a mirror, she half expected to see his face standing behind her. On the 10th night, the phone rang. No caller ID. She answered anyway. A breath, then a voice, male, quiet, deliberate. He's not gone. Her pulse jumped. Who is this? Someone who used to wear your badge. Reynolds? Not quite. Static cracked, then the line steadied. They pulled more bodies from the lake. 3 men, none of them Vargas. Her throat went dry. Where? Pier 19. Same spot. They found something else too. A flash drive sealed in plastic. With your name on it. The line clicked dead. Within the hour, she was at the coroner's lab. The morgue lights buzzed overhead, sterile and unforgiving. The tech handed her a small evidence bag. 1 USB drive, scorched but intact. On the side, someone had scratched 3 letters into the metal casing. Yim. Evelyn Miller. She plugged it into a secure terminal. The screen flickered, loaded a single folder labeled Archive 95. Inside, dozens of images, documents, voice clips. Evidence logs she'd never seen before, all marked internal use only, Winterline Division. Her breath slowed. These were surveillance photos. Evelyn walking with Caleb. Evelyn meeting a man near the river. Evelyn handing over an envelope to someone in plain clothes. The last image froze her blood. Evelyn and Vargas, sitting at a diner table, coffee between them. The timestamp, January 10th, 1995, 2 days before her death. Lena leaned closer. Vargas's hand rested on Evelyn's wrist. Not aggressive. Familiar. As if he knew her. She opened the audio file, linked to the image. A muffled recording crackled to life. Conversation drowned by static, but words emerging through the hiss. Vargas, you have to trust me. Evelyn, you said you'd protect my son. Vargas, I will. But you need to give me the list. Evelyn, I'm not handing it over until I know he's safe. Then, footsteps, a chair scraping, the sound of glass breaking, a man shouting. End of file. Lena sat back, staring at the screen. The list Evelyn mentioned, names, maybe, or evidence. Whatever it was, Vargas never got it. And now he wanted it back. She checked the metadata. Last accessed 3 weeks ago, from a Bureau IP address. The same week Harris had visited her. Her stomach clenched. He'd known about this. He'd let her walk into the fire. She copied the files to her encrypted drive, wiped the terminal, and left before dawn. Outside, the snow fell thick and soundless. She drove aimlessly until the city lights thinned, until the road turned into a long, dark ribbon slicing through open fields. She stopped at a diner on the outskirts of Joliet, ordered black coffee, and spread the printed photos across the table. Evelyn, Caleb, Vargas, DeLuca, every line converging back to that week in 1995. The waitress glanced at the papers and said, "That one," pointing at Vargas's face. He was in here last week. Tip big, didn't talk much. Lena's hand tightened around her cup. "You're sure?" The woman nodded. Had a limp. Left shoulder looked hurt. The bullet wound from the dock. He was alive, moving close. When Lena stepped outside, a black car was idling across the street. Windows tinted. No plates. The driver stared straight ahead, unmoving. She pretended not to notice, got in her car, and pulled away. The black car followed. For 20 minutes, they traced each other through empty industrial roads. When she turned suddenly down a service alley, the car sped up. She slammed the brakes, stepped out, gun ready. The driver's door opened slowly. A man in a suit stepped out, hands visible. "Easy," he said. "Agent Marin, Bureau Internal Affairs." Her guard didn't drop. "You were supposed to be dead." "I get that a lot," he said dryly. "We need to talk." He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, a single sheet of paper, a bureau arrest Varon. Her name at the top. Charges: unauthorized possession of classified material, obstruction of federal investigation. She laughed once bitter. They really want this buried. Marin's voice dropped. They're cleaning house. Harris is gone. Everyone tied to Winterline is either dead or missing. They're calling it containment. I call it panic. He looked at her hard. Whatever's on that drive, it's more than murder. It's infrastructure, judges, cops, shipping executives, politicians. They used Winterline to move more than people. Weapons, data, money. The city runs on it. Lena felt cold to her bones. You think Vargas is running it again? Marin shook his head. No, he's protecting it. The man behind him, we still don't have a name. A truck rumbled past, headlights briefly washing over them. When the light faded, Marin was gone. Only the envelope remained on her hood. On the back, a handwritten note. Trust no one, not even me. She drove back to the city, every intersection crawling with paranoia. By the time she reached her apartment, dawn had painted the skyline gray. She unlocked the door and froze. The lights were on. Someone had been inside. The table was cleared, the photos gone. Only one thing remained. A Polaroid pinned to the wall with a kitchen knife. Evelyn again. The same crescent moon locket around her neck. But this time the photo was new. Digital quality. Clean. Crisp. Impossible. Across the bottom. See you soon. Lena tore it down, breathing hard. The air smelled faintly of smoke. She turned and saw the cigarette burning in the ashtray by the window. Still warm. She grabbed her gun and stepped into the hall. Nothing. Only silence. The elevator doors were closing, slow, metallic. She ran, too late. The car descended. She took the stairs 3 at a time, bursting into the lobby. Empty. Only a faint trail of wet footprints leading out into the snow. The same industrial tread boots from the dock. She followed them outside, into the street. The city was still asleep, snow swirling under streetlights. The prints led toward the river, fading near the bridge. She stopped there, breath fogging the air. On the railing, etched into the frost, 3 words scratched by a knife. Still waiting, detective. She stared until the letters melted into water. The sound of the river was low and heavy, ice shifting underneath like something alive. When she finally turned back, the black car was parked again at the corner. No driver, no exhaust, just there, humming faintly. Inside, on the passenger seat, a single item, the crescent moon locket. She picked it up with trembling hands. Inside, a new photograph. Aaron, alive, in a hospital bed, for in his arm. Date stamp, 2 hours ago. She ran to her car, engine roaring, tires cutting through the slush. The hospital was 12 blocks away. By the time she arrived, security swarmed the entrance. Evacuation drill, one said, waving her back. But she saw through the glass, agents, black suits, moving equipment. Not a drill. Extraction. She shoved past them, sprinted down the corridor, reached the recovery ward. Aaron's bed was empty. Only the steady beep of a monitor, still counting nothing. On the pillow, a note written in a child's handwriting. He said, "You come too late." Lena's knees nearly buckled. She looked out the window, just as a helicopter lifted from the roof, rotors slicing the snow. Through the glass, she saw him. Vargas, standing beside Aaron, one hand on the boy's shoulder. He looked down, smiled, and raised 2 fingers in a mock salute. The helicopter vanished into the white sky. For a moment, the whole city went silent. Then Lena whispered, voice raw, "Not again." She picked up the abandoned hospital phone, dialed the only number she still trusted. Marin answered instantly. "He's got the boy," she said. "They're airborne." "I know," he said grimly. "We're tracking them. They're heading north, toward the lake. Then that's where I'm going." She hung up, grabbed her coat, and stepped back into the storm. The snow was coming down harder now, swallowing the city in white noise. Sirens wailed somewhere behind her, but she didn't look back. Because once again, the trail led to the water, and in Chicago, everything dead eventually floats back up. The lake at night looked like a sheet of black glass, broken only by the scars of ice clinging to the shoreline. Searchlights swept the clouds above Chicago, But the helicopter was already gone, swallowed by the storm to the north. Lena stood on the pier, coat snapping in the wind. Phone pressed to her ear as Marin's voice crackled through the static. "They're off radar," he said. Transponder went dark over the lake. Last ping puts them near an old Coast Guard station, decommissioned after '09. Off the books now, private lease. Winterline, not under that name. Shell Company, out of Delaware. Same directors, different mask. She looked at the horizon. No lights, just a thin gray smear where sky met water. "Send me the coordinates." "You're not going out there alone." "I already am," she said, and hung up. The marina was mostly dead, boats chained and sleeping for the winter. She moved fast, cutting a padlock off a small patrol skiff with a bolt cutter she found in a locker. The engine coughed once, then growled awake. She pushed off, the city shrinking behind her into a smear of light. Wind slapped her face, freezing needles against her skin. The water wouldn't stop moving. Dark waves, white caps, shards of ice floating like broken glass. She kept the bow pointed north, eyes on the glow of her GPS, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping the gun inside her coat like a talisman. The coordinates sat on the screen like a dare. 20 minutes out. 30. The city vanished behind her. Just water, sky, and the sound of the engine clawing through the dark. Marin's voice burst in her ear again, louder this time over the headset. "Detective, listen to me. That station isn't just an old base. It's a relay. Winterline used it as a control hub for shipments. Comms, manifests, traffic routes. If Vargas is there, he isn't just running, he's erasing. Then I got here just in time." "You don't understand," Marin said. "He wasn't the top of the chain back then. He was middle management. Someone else built this. Someone else kept it alive after '95. The list Evelyn mentioned? It's not just names. It's a blueprint." The wind howled louder. The skiff hit a wave and slammed down hard, jarring her teeth. "Tell me the rest when I get back," she said. "If you get back," he replied quietly. The station rose from the dark like something half-remembered from a nightmare. A concrete island, rusted towers, a helipad perched over the water like a dare to gravity. A single light burned in one window. No other signs of life. No other way out. She cut the engine and drifted the last few yards, tying off to a ladder that climbed the side of the structure. The metal was slick with ice. Every rung felt like stepping into a colder part of hell. At the top, the wind tried to tear her away from the edge. She crouched low, moved along the platform toward the lit window. Through the glass, she saw movement, two shadows, one tall, one small. Vargas. Aaron. She ducked below the sill, heart pounding, breath steaming in the air. Her gloved hand found the door handle. It turned, unlocked. Inside, the hallway smelled like dust, fuel, and something chemical she couldn't place. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, some flickering, some dead. Old Coast Guard logos peeled off the walls. Further in, the building changed, concrete giving way to newer metal, untouched paint, server racks blinking in the dark. Winterline's second heartbeat, hidden in plain sight. Voices drifted down the hall. She followed, steps silent, pistol low. "You remember more than you think," a man was saying. "Calm, patient." Aaron's voice followed, shaking. "I don't. I told you I don't." "You were 4, the man said. "Children see what adults miss. The mind doesn't forget. It just buries." She reached the doorway and glanced inside. Aaron sat in a metal chair, wrists cuffed, monitors wired to his temples. His eyes were open but far away, pupils blown wide. Beside him, a man in a lab coat adjusted dials on a machine that hummed softly. On the other side of the room, leaning against a console, coat open, shoulder bandaged, Vargas. He looked older in the harsh light. Lines etched deeper into his face, but the eyes were the same. Sharp, amused, unafraid. "Tell me about the night in the kitchen," the lab coat man said gently. "Your mother. The argument." Aaron's voice came out small, distant, like it was traveling a long way to reach them. They were yelling. Daddy and the other man. Glass broke. Mom took my hand. We ran. Who was the other man? I don't know. Yes, you do, the man insisted. You saw his face at the door. Before you left. Before the snow. Aaron's jaw clenched. He had a badge. Lena's breath hitched. The man leaned closer. What badge? There's a snake, Aaron whispered, wrapped around a chain. Winterline. Vargas chuckled softly. A child with a better memory than half your agents, he said. You see why we need him conscious? Not sedated. The lab tech nodded, fingers tightening on the switches. The more he talks, the clearer the pattern. Lena stepped into the doorway, gun raised. Then let me make something clear. All three heads snapped toward her. The lab coat froze. Aaron flinched. Vargas smiled. Detective Keller, he said, as if greeting an old friend at a bar. You never did like knocking. Step away from him, she said. You're late, he replied. Again. She moved further into the room, staying between them and the door. The monitors behind Aaron showed spiking lines, memory, heart rate, something else. The machine hummed like an old radio, searching for a station. The lab tech lifted his hands. I don't have a gun, he stammered. Then you won't be a problem, she said, not taking her eyes off Vargas. Unhook the kid. Vargas shrugged. If you disconnect him too fast, you'll scramble his short-term memory. But maybe that's an improvement, given everything he's seen. Do it, she snapped. The tech fumbled with the wires, pulling electrodes off Aaron's temples. The boy blinked hard, eyes refocusing, breathing suddenly fast. Detective, he whispered. I've got you, she said. Vargas pushed off the console, hands visible, moving slow. You came all this way for a boy who barely knows you, he said. You must feel guilty. This isn't about guilt. Isn't it? He asked. You reopened a cold case that was quieter dead than alive. You tore open scars the city had already learned to live with. For what? Closure? Headlines? A moment where they called you a hero before they turned the channel? Evelyn deserved the truth. He laughed once low. Truth? Evelyn tried to play both sides. She thought she could bargain with monsters, give us half the ledger, and keep the half that named names. She didn't realize the house always wins. Lena's voice went flat. You met her in that diner. You promised to protect her. You used her. For a while, he said. Then she became a liability. You killed her. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Not guilt, not regret. Recognition of the accusation like a familiar song. I didn't have to, he said slowly. Caleb and DeLuca did my work for me. Rage and obsession. That combination is a gift. All I had to do was make sure the body landed where I needed it. In a lot behind a bakery, she said, where you knew it would be found, but never identified. Jane Doe, he said. Cold case. A ghost without a name. The machine behind Aaron beeped twice, then steadied. The lab tech edged toward a red switch on the wall. Don't, she warned. He froze. Vargas watched her carefully. You really want the truth? He asked. The twist that kept your lab rats up at night? The DNA that didn't add up? Her grip tightened. Say it. He nodded toward Aaron. You know those partial matches you found? The third strand on her jacket. The one that didn't fit Caleb, DeLuca, or any known relative. She remembered the reports. Unknown subject C, familial linkage uncertain. That wasn't a stranger, Vargas said softly. That was heritage. Her stomach flipped. What are you talking about? The boy's DNA, he said. Didn't you ever wonder why his markers never lined up clean with Caleb's? Why the genealogical match flagged anomalies? Because Caleb wasn't his father. He was just a man raising someone else's son. The room seemed to tilt. Aaron stared at him blankly, lips parted. Lena whispered, You're lying. He smiled, slow, cruel. Evelyn was my informant long before she was your victim. And for a while, she was more than that. Undercover operations get messy. Lines blur. People get close. She wanted out. She wanted her child safe. She thought tying herself to a quiet warehouse worker would erase where the boy really came from. No, I don't matter. Vargas stepped closer, eyes locked on Lena's. That third DNA trace on her collar? That wasn't just contact. It was blood. Her blood is blood in mine. You didn't just chase a killer, detective. You dragged his son back to his father. The world went silent. except for the distant sound of ice cracking against the station walls. Aaron shook his head violently, breathing ragged. He's lying. Tell me he's lying. Lena felt the gun grow heavier in her hand. Images flashed rapid fire. The diner photo of Evelyn and Vargas. The way her hand reached across the table. The recordings where she begged someone to protect her son. The unexplained gaps in the DNA reports. You can't prove that, she said, but it sounded weak even to her. Oh, but I can, Vargas replied. Winterline keeps its own archives. Every asset, every operation, every contingency. We mapped bloodlines as carefully as border routes. Insurance. Control. Look around you, detective. This building isn't a hideout. It's a ledger written in flesh. And the boy, he's not just a witness. He's legacy. The lab tech's fingers twitched toward the red switch again. Lena flinched her gun in his direction. I said don't. He hits that, Vargas said calmly. And every drive in this place wipes itself. Every record of what we did in 95, every name, every route. You'll be left with nothing but your word against a dead city's memory. So, I shoot him first, she said. Then you. Vargas tilted his head, and the boy watches his real father die in front of him. Again, the word hit like a bullet. Again. Behind her, the wind howled through a crack in the window, driving snow in a thin white line across the floor. The monitors flickered. Somewhere deep in the station, a low alarm began to beep steadily, counting down something she couldn't see. She swallowed hard. What do you want? He smiled, and in that smile was the whole frozen heart of the case, the arrogance, the certainty that the game was rigged from the start. I want you to make a choice, he said. Walk out of here with the boy and forget what you've seen. Let the past sink back under the ice. Or stay, fight, and lose him. Just like you lost his mother. Just like you almost lost yourself. Aaron's eyes filled with tears.